We shall eat zombie takeout tonight. We must eat zombie takeout tonight. All of the billions of years of the Earth's existence have led to us eating zombie takeout tonight. The probability of our eating zombie takeout tonight is the increasing function asymptotically approaching zombie takeout. What's up? Welcome to episode 234 of Zombie Takeout,
Zombie Takeout.
EP movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John,
And I'm Scotto.
and without any further ado, let's just get to this week's movie. And I have to admit, I messed up the year on Facebook and I think Twitter and Google Plus. I said it was from 2014 because it's in festivals now. It turns out it's from 2012, and it is Mother's Milk. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Mother Issues, making cinematic psychotics that much creepier since 1960.
And also brought to you by the American Dairy Association. You know, it doesn't have to come from a human. All right, so we have this. We start with the victim of the crime first, don't we?
No, we start with the...
That's right. We start with the professor.
Well, we start with a long shot of a boiling pot of water, actually.
Like some oatmeal being made. That's right. You know, I've seen the beginning twice now within the past few months, and I don't know what happened to my brain between the 5 Resident Evil movies. But anyway, that's right. We start with the victim of the first crime.
Yes.
Aha, there. She is chained up in a dungeon, a wood panel dungeon, of course, and we see the oatmeal boiling, and then our villain very calmly just walks into the room and
holding something in his right hand. We don't know what it is yet.
Holding something in his right hand, and then walks out with just blood all from his mouth to his chest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, we see so much right before the opening title credit.
Yeah. Although we don't really understand it yet.
Right, we're not sure, but we see so much of that opening title, and it does say so much with so little. And right, so it turns out he has this thing for mother's milk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because you can't tell the story out of order.
Yeah.
I mean, they told the story out of order, of course, and we did not discuss this before, but I think we need to keep the ending, as much of the ending, under wraps as possible because, I mean, yeah, the journey is one thing and you could probably go back and see it again, but one of the big parts of this movie is how the fuck are they going to get out of this?
Yeah. Particularly, you mean the part where he attacks her, or just the very ending?
I would.
I have some comments on the part where he attacks her.
Okay, yeah, where he attacks her, fine.
Okay.
But the very ending, I'm thinking.
All right.
And when I say they, I'm thinking of the writer and the story. How the fuck does he get out of this? It's this Houdini act because he's built himself this cage.
Yeah.
And even the protagonist, of course, has built himself a cage. Well, villain protagonist, anti-protagonist, I guess you could say.
The lead character is the villain, but not in a cool anti-hero you want him to win kind of way, which makes it very interesting.
It does. And the performance helps, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So he's this college professor, and he has this thing for mother's milk because, as we learn in a flashback somewhere towards the middle, that he caused a terrible accident that caused his mother to die, and he was a bit old a bit big to be
Mhm.
breastfeeding at that
If
point
you
too.
remember a scene from, I think it's the first season of Game of Thrones when they first went to the phrase, not the
Yes.
phrase, it was
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Like,
John Aaron, his wife and his son. If you remember
yeah,
them from season 1 of Game of Thrones, that sort of thing.
r- right. So, yeah, so he is motherless, and he tries to compensate for that. So it's more, he says it's more than just a fetish, but of course it is really
Yeah.
a fetish. But anyway, justify it as you will, call it what you will. That's what he's into. Unfortunately, getting prostitutes was not good enough for him, so he has been kidnapping young women
Mothers.
who were mothers,
Who he thinks are mothers.
who he thinks are mothers, and he really fucks up because he finds someone who is just babysitting
Mhm.
their niece, I believe it was.
Nephew.
Nephew, okay. And so he decides to reveal himself to her still, and he's stuck with her, of course. I mean, what does he do? Can't release her. Can't.
Well,
He
doesn't
doesn't
want to
have.
kill her.
Doesn't really want to kill her. But yet he does not have what he needs from her. And he tries to come up with a few different plans to do so, but he, in a weird way, falls for her.
Yeah.
Sets up a date with her,
Mhm.
and well,
Well, I get the impression that he was doing that with the other one as well, and with however many previous victims there were.
well, there was a little difference because he thought he was able to, stay clinically detached from her,
Right. Yeah, yeah, true.
and he could not.
Mhm.
And I say he flips out, of course. He's kidnapped her and locked her in his basement. He's already flipped out,
It
and
gets
says, "No."
worse.
But yes, it gets worse. And he gets a little Hannibal Lecterish,
Mhm.
and
I think it's hilarity ensues at that
I
point.
think it's hilarity ensues at that point because the battle lines are drawn.
There's the ending we don't want to talk about, but without getting into too much, there are kind of two climaxes in the film,
Yes,
which is fascinating. But rolling it back to the beginning,
yes,
the boiling water at the beginning, very interesting metaphor because it's a psychological thriller effectively.
right,
And so, starting with a pot of boiling water is a really nice metaphor, except it goes on a bit too long. We're almost seeing the water boil in real time,
right.
which it got a little boring, just at the outset for me.
It's setting the tone because things have gone on for too long.
Well, yeah, very good point. Very good point. Then it gets much more interesting because it's very Hitchcock influenced, particularly the camera work.
Definitely.
There is not one normal camera angle in the entire movie, I don't think. And then the muted colors were an interesting choice. I don't know if that was a budgetary thing or a creative choice, but it worked beautifully.
The odd thing is, since one of the actors has been following
Mhm.
our exploits along here,
As has the main Twitter account for the movie.
all of our normal dumb questions will actually probably be answered somewhere
That's
in
a
the
good point.
future here.
That
Just
is a
saying,
good
just
point.
throw that out there.
Because it's obviously a low budget movie.
Well, yeah,
And I don't mean that as a criticism at all. You know what we think about Primer, and that's
of
the
course.
lowest of the low in terms of
Yeah,
budgets. But it shows in terms of some of the sets and the color treatment. But I think that really helps it in a sense too, because it makes it feel claustrophobic.
well, right. I think the only place where the budget really hurt the film,
Mhm.
and not even like that much, was the tight shots on the house that most likely had houses right next door.
I didn't really notice that too much. Again, I think a lot of that. I really can't criticize the any of the cinematography.
Of course not. You only have what you have, and at first I was wondering like why couldn't they have gotten an exterior for something else until they actually had scenes outside. So you only had what you have. You can't get another house exterior.
To me, the issue with the budget that the movie did have,
What?
and I suspect it might be a Primer situation where, aside from the leads, they basically had to hire friends and family because the supporting cast is particularly weak.
Well, yeah,
The two leads are, hmm?
but they are just pretty much background
Yeah, we don't
pieces.
spend much time with any of them.
No, they have like a couple lines at most, so
And the two leads are stellar.
not really distracting all that much
You
when
spend most of your time with Claude and Kim, the two leads,
yeah.
and Mackenzie Wigglesworth and Casey Chapman, both of whom hit it out of the park completely in this. They are brilliant.
And it's crazy because we were a little nervous because the trailer, the scenes from the trailer are not actually the same scenes from the movie.
Well,
Or am I just nuts?
some of them may have been visually. It looked like a lot of the film. I know the second trailer has the speech that we used as the intro, and that's not in the movie.
But doesn't it seem like the acting in the trailer isn't as good as the acting in the film?
I didn't mind it. Actually, I didn't watch the trailer until I posted it. Well, didn't watch it with the audio. After the show last week, we watched it, or I watched it with the sound off, and was commenting that it looks very low budget, and I desperately hope that the acting elevates it because it would be, really awkward to have to pan this movie. Just to be honest.
Well, and of course, I was kind of like, what do I do? But luckily, well, not luck. I don't think it's through any luck that yeah, the performances are damn strong.
Absolutely. And even in the trailer, I watched the trailer the other day when I posted it, and I was amazed. It didn't look low budget anymore. I mean, the quality of the performances affected how the thing looked.
I think Chapman trumps Pierce in his in the oh, what the hell? You know
Perfect
what?
Toast, yeah.
Perfect Host, yes.
I will say yes in a sense. The only difference with Pierce, it was a slightly higher degree of difficulty because he basically played three characters.
I think
But
Pierce
in
got
terms of the
arch in
general,
some spots,
yeah,
which
yeah.
was the flaw there.
If we're looking at Pierce in the bulk of the movie where he's the psychotic,
Yeah.
Chapman does trump him, definitely. Because Pierce gets a little caricaturish. Casey Chapman, I bought every second of the way.
This is one of the creepiest performances I've seen in God knows how long.
And
Uh,
just roll it back just a touch. I have to call something out.
okay.
I loved the title card
Yeah?
because we see him come back from killing the first victim with all the
Yeah.
blood, and it's just a fraction of a second. Black screen, white font, mother's milk, and that's it.
I was trying to think of the last performance I've seen this creepy, and you know what I'll go with? I'll go with Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Yes, yes, I would agree. But I just had to call it the title card because I love how quickly it was just efficient. It was there. You read it. It was gone.
Yeah, I mean, and the score and everything was, I mean, it didn't distract. It helped build the movie
Mhm.
right along. It was usually in a low budget movie, they can you. Oh, what was the one we did with the where the you know what the problem with doing this at the end of a long day is the memory is gone.
Yeah, yeah.
The one low budget, the one where the math guy professor did the movie
Oh,
um
yeah, Split.
Split oh that's right, that was just called Split.
Yeah.
And yeah, so where the score and the title cards were all done by somebody else, and it was just such a distraction.
Now
But
this is.
this one, it was nicely done,
Oh yeah, definitely.
almost so much that you're like, wow, that must have cost money.
Now this is director Edward Pianki. I'm gonna guess on that name. I apologize if I've mispronounced it. This is his first film, and he does, in my opinion, possibly make some rookie mistakes. There are a couple of scenes that he sets up that he doesn't really need to. Like when he goes to play bridge, we have this little bit of conversation that seemed kind of pointless. Also, when Kim, the second victim's mother, is leaving her, with the kid, we didn't need to know in that scene that she wasn't the mother. That could have been established after the kidnapping.
I think there's two reasons for, well, each one. I think there's a reason for each of them. Well, of course, the bridge partner
He's the one who,
has
yeah, he has an
they
important
need
role.
him introduced earlier because he finishes the plot along in the end.
Yeah, but he was also in the bar scene,
True,
which had a little more of a point to it.
true. I guess they were establishing a life outside of the dungeon,
It's
but
it's it's a it's a rookie mistake. You want to put all those little details in, and it just could have used a little. The script just could have used a little editing, is all I'm saying.
I thought he was quite efficient with it, really. I mean, the bridge was, I mean, he was one scene for the bridge, one scene for lecturing and his day job.
Mhm.
Um,
And I think his math was a little off. I'm not sure, but if
I'm
I
not even gonna pretend that I could follow that along.
it seemed like, and I may be, math is not my strong suit. I may be completely wrong about this, but it seemed like he divided a number by itself and
I'm just
then
going to shut the fuck up
added a
about
certain
that at
amount
this
and
point.
then got something drastically different. I don't know. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there was something before the scene that made that make sense.
Sir, that is incorrect. The Conan O'Brien nerd.
If they have been following the show, they know I nitpick this kind of shit.
All right. Now, for for Kim though,
Mm.
and her backstory, I thought the same thing you did. Why did we need to have that established so early? But it's more than just that it's not her child. It's that weird state in life when you're out of college and you've been thinking the jobs are just gonna, be right there for you and stuff, and you've got the wedding planned months after you've graduated and all that. And instead of everything rolling along like you think it's going to, because school time's over, now it's time for this. Instead of all that happening for her, there she is,
But all of
just at home reading back at her mom's place
right,
or whatever, just
yeah.
reading a book and not having anything better to do than just to be the babysitter. Not her kid, of course, somebody else's. Just being stuck in uh that very weird time of a person's life.
But that was all established in the dialogue with Claude. It didn't need to be shown as well.
It does, because it's very important. Because think about it, they're both stuck in this, uh, form of arrested development. She just as much, not as much as he is, of course, but
Okay.
she is in a sense herself too, more like a petulant child to
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
kidnapped. And I think it explained it all, really. Like why she
Interesting.
wasn't just fighting insanely against his what he's done to her.
See, that wasn't the reason I didn't think she was fighting. I initially I figured, she thought if she tried to really fight, he'd kill her, and then we have the Stockholm syndrome developing.
But I mean, it wasn't even that at all. It was just this feeling of hopelessness she had from the onset, and really her way of fighting, of course, of making these crayon drawings like a small child herself,
Yeah, yeah.
of I will kill Claude, and then you know hiding that in the middle of a scene of some sort or scribbling. And yeah, so the two of them are both in similar boats,
Mm.
except he hasn't. He's even further
Oh yeah,
arrested
of
than
course.
she is.
Though I did like that he admitted to imprisoning her. In most cases, the psychotic, or at least in films, the psychotic doesn't know they're doing anything wrong.
Well,
He's fully aware of it.
the nice touch of how rude he was by not asking her if smoking was okay
Hmm.
in front of her.
And
Heavens, where are my manners?
well, and then I think that's a lot of what really reminds me of The Perfect Host.
Well, right, right.
And
Except that was all
oh, yeah, it was
crazy.
all, yeah, facade. And this is a question I would love to actually get an answer from if Casey Chapman or, Edward Pianki are listening. Have either of them seen that movie and was it an influence?
Wasn't that around the same time that it came out? Like 12?
I don't know actually.
I
Could have
thought
been.
so. That is something I totally should have done.
Well, I can look that
before.
up
That's what I'm doing
momentarily. I
too.
still have a browser open, so.
I was no 2010.
Oh, okay. So it was a little bit before this was maybe in pre-production at the time or writing, so it could have been an influence.
But I think you're right more about the Psycho uh,
Mhm. Oh,
influence.
Psycho was a big influence,
Yeah.
obviously. I did like how he brainwashed her to eat the liver.
Well, he starved her.
Well, he starved her to the point where he threw raw liver at her and she went for it, and then he gave her the real thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just taking away her options until she was so desperate that she'd do anything. It was then showing her kindness
Yeah.
that brought her towards him, not just out of desperation, but it made her feel cared for. It was just a masterstroke of brainwashing. One question about the dialogue. When he sees the drawings, he says, I should get you a sketch pad and a something," and I didn't catch that word. Did you?
I think it was just supplies, wasn't it?
Okay, it might have been supplies. I just missed it. I really didn't need the regurgitation nightmare though. I have a thing with regurgitation. I can't
Really?
stand to say it. It's probably possibly the thing that disgusts me the most.
Huh.
So that just hit a nerve for me. And he does it in a couple of scenes. So,
Oh man. Yeah. When he goes Lecter. Psh.
well, we'll get to that.
So when I was first watching this, when we were doing the whole like, is this in our wheelhouse thing? What scene do you think it was that made me say, "Yep, we got to do this"?
Hmm. The dream sequence
No.
was before the dream sequence.
Yeah, it was early. It was very early in.
Okay. Because the dream sequence kind of reminded me of a lot of like 70s trippy sci-fi stuff.
Like I was only supposed to watch like maybe the first 15 of
That's right.
this,
That's right.
and I wound up watching a good half hour,
Well,
or
okay.
at least.
I'm gonna go with a scene that I also think was maybe a little excessive, but may have been the one that pushed it for you.
Yes.
The lactation porn scene.
Yes. I damn near almost fell out of the couch laughing.
We see Claude watching some lactation porn, and then we see full on see the porn. Um, Maybe a little over the top. I get transgressive and trying to push the boundaries and all of that. It was just maybe a little unnecessary.
Of course it was, but you know that's what made it a zombie takeout film.
Oh, yeah, of course, of course.
I was like, okay, yeah,
Also, I really liked her portrayal, Mackenzie Wigglesworth's portrayal of Stockholm syndrome, because it really kept me guessing as to whether she was just playing along or if it really was the syndrome kicking in.
it is very confusing. Yeah, I'm not clear about it even after going through it almost twice,
And then
whether she,
particularly with the very ending, which we won't spoil again.
until he really lost it,
hmm Well, until the attack,
until the attack we can call it,
which we're pretty much up to. Well, at least I am in my notes.
until that, it is very uncertain, unclear
Hmm.
whether she is into this or not,
Yeah.
I mean, he did try to inseminate her,
Hmm.
and it's not clear whether she fucked it up on purpose or whether it just didn't take.
Well, there's some question about that at the end, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, the ending I'm not clear about at all,
Just to
actually.
just to discuss the attack for a moment.
Okay.
This was well, I won't give my exact rating, but I really liked this movie up until that scene. Kind of took a little bit away from me, just because I think it went a bit too Troma.
What? I thought you liked Troma.
I love Troma, but
But
this,
just not in this place, not in this setting.
but not in a serious, tense psychological thriller like this. Going Troma like that, it just it made it a bit silly.
Hmm.
And this movie was anything but silly up until that point, aside from the lactating porn. And I get, you know, it was what he did was very disturbing.
Yes.
And I appreciate that, and I understand that's what you were going for, and it worked beautifully to just see the wide shot of the two of them, and you see what happened to her. You didn't need to see that little extra. That's where it went a little trauma. When the close up shot of it on the bed.
It was shocking, though. I can't remember the last time I've actually been shocked by a film.
Yeah, I just the prosthetics on the bed
Other
just
than how bad the last five were.
oh, two of the last five, let's say.
Okay, all right.
The prosthetic sitting there on the bed was just a little too silly for me. It just kind of took away from it. But that's really my only serious criticism of the film. So,
Are you saying you're making mountains out of molehills?
but
What?
I did appreciate though how she um subdued him, and this I will spoil just because it is an absolutely brilliant idea.
It was damn clever.
She asks for a steak, and she tells him she wants to eat it in private.
Now you assume she's asking for the steak because of the steak knife
Hmm.
to cut it.
I didn't even
Because
think that far ahead.
that's what I was guessing. That she just wanted the steak knife because he had to do everything properly. He wouldn't just serve a steak without a steak
Of
knife.
course.
He would serve it with the proper steak knife, and then she would shank him with it somehow.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
the steak knife was a false flag.
Even more, what's what I'm looking for? Literally, in that scene, actually, she uses it to fake him out
Yeah,
because she cuts the T-bone out of the steak and uses it as a push dagger. It was fucking brilliant. And he comes in and he sees the plate with the steak on the floor with the napkin over top of it, and her hands are behind her, and you can see one of each in each hand, and he gets her to the point where hand me the knife. She drops it, and he doesn't know what she's gonna do, and it's just this great moment of anticipation of just waiting to see her put the bone into his neck. The choreography could have been a little better. It's low budget. I can, forgive that easily.
it got the job
Oh,
done
it got the
though.
job done, and
Yeah,
it doesn't take away from the genius of the idea. Just
yeah.
the actual stunt was a little iffy. Low budget, not a problem.
I would have thought that would have killed him unless she missed the vein. I don't know if I'm
She
spoiling too much by saying that.
apparently, yeah, she missed the jugular apparently.
Yeah,
Which, I mean, that's a small target when you clearly have no experience, and maybe that explains the bad stunt, is she has no experience with the blade.
true.
So, she looks a
Or
little
T-bone.
iffy with it. So it doesn't, the way she hits him, it doesn't look like it would go through. My
Yeah, I
own,
don't know how good I'd be using a T-bone as a weapon either.
but the fact that it actually does go through and draw blood and could probably stick in, it seemed a little iffy, but I'm nitpicking.
So if we do sequels and remakes, Jackie Chan as Kim, who can
Mhm.
make like the weapons out of
Yeah.
different things, and yeah,
Now, what happened to him after that seemed a little sudden.
he does set it up though.
Yeah,
He does talk about. He actually says he's a prisoner there too, and what's going to happen to
it's
him.
set up. It's just I think a case of he wanted to get out as fast as possible and try to be efficient, and I think he just didn't give enough time to that particular moment.
Well, I think the reality had set in,
It does
even from
with the
that date
montage, and
scene.
I won't complain about the montage just in this case.
Montage. I missed the mon.
Just before he does it, he thinks back to basically his
Oh,
entire life.
what's a flashback?
Yeah,
That's not really a montage.
it's a series of clips. It's a montage. Anyway, I won't complain.
Montage usually is to cut back on the training or
Yeah.
whatever, or the search for something. This is the life flashing before his eyes, or in this case, the movie.
He made that decision a little suddenly for me, or he acted on it a bit suddenly.
Well, the stabbing, I think, was sort of a shattering of the delusion.
Good point. Good point. All
Like
right.
even after his attack of her, he still had this delusion that they could just go on as if as he
Right.
even says it, as if nothing had happened.
Right. Yeah. Obviously not going to happen given what was done to her. And yes, we're talking around it and annoying you, but trust us, you'll thank us when you see the movie.
Right. Because, yeah, I'm sitting here halfway through this. How the fuck are we getting out of this? Any of us?
Yeah.
How are they getting out of this? How's the story resolving? How are either one of these guys getting out of this?
Yeah. He gets out of it a bit too quickly for me, but then the way she gets out of it, I loved. It was very creative. I'll just say a little well-timed intervention.
Yeah.
Now, the last scene was interesting, a little painful given the performance of the day player, which I think affected Mackenzie Wigglesworth's performance as well. You know, she didn't have much to go with. Because that's really the only scene where I have any criticisms of her acting. Outside of that scene, she was amazing.
I'm not, like, really sure what they were talking about in the end.
The appointment?
Yeah. Something
See,
about psychoses
well,
being inherited.
initially when she said appointment, I thought it was maybe for a trauma specialist, you know,
Well, yeah, right, right. I would gather she would
um,
need some serious counseling.
possibly some medical attention.
Yes. Some reconstructive surgery, perhaps.
Then they mentioned the thing about psychosis being hereditary.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking is she was pregnant,
Oh,
possibly an abortion.
wow.
That's where it left me, which does leave, and I'm done with my notes if we want to go on to sequels and remakes.
Sure, sure.
That implies a possible sequel, next generation type of thing.
Whoa. Uh,
Because consider the state she's left in. What kind of mother is she going to be?
hmm.
You know, kid inherits his father's psychosis, has this, you know, damaged victim for a mother, and the cycle repeats itself.
There we go.
Oh, just a couple of points I wanted to mention. Edward Fionke has done two subsequent films, both starring Chapman and Wigglesworth. So that'll be interesting to see. Given, you know, this movie, I'm really curious to see how Edward Fionke develops as a director, and of course to see these two act some more because they're amazing.
Yeah, I've seen Casey perform like in theater in Chicago here, and yeah, the performances have always been just fantastic. Like Edward Albee's Zoo Story.
Oh, also he has the best IMDb profile picture I have ever seen. You need to go to his IMDb page. It's just epic.
Yeah,
All right, Underbrains.
on the brains.
I think you talked me up. The Troma moment, I'll call it, took a half brain off for me, but I think I'm putting it back there just because I didn't connect certain elements, like the two of them being in the same boat. And yeah, I guess we do need the shock value. I'm gonna go 4.
The performance of Chapman alone on this is worth the price of
Oh,
admission.
absolutely. And
I,
Mackenzie Wigglesworth, gotta give her
I
a lot of credit too.
I think he actually may have even been a little bit too young for the part,
Possibly.
maybe. But how the hell would you resist putting him in this anyway? You know, you'd be kind of nuts not to. Um, the details, you're going to get what you're going to get because it is,
Yeah.
a low budget movie. But you got to see his performance on this. It's just a new height of creepiness. So I'm going 5.
Oh. All right. And what have we learned?
Well, I learned a couple things from this. One, if you see wood paneling in a house, get the fuck out as soon as you can.
Yeah, it really doesn't lead to anything good.
Wood paneling just screams abandon all hope, all ye who enter here. That, and if you just had a titty spider from the last series, none of this would have happened.
That's true.
Yep.
And I learned that steak can be used as a weapon. Who'd have thought?
I thought it was what was for dinner.
All right, so in 2 weeks from now, we're taking next week off because a week from
Holy
tonight,
shit, we're
tonight
taking
is
a week off.
my birthday's in a week, so
Happy birthday, Uncle John.
we're taking a week off. In 2 weeks, we'll be reviewing Donnie Darko. Haven't seen that one in quite a while. Wasn't crazy about it the last time. It'll be interesting to see if my opinion has changed.
I've never seen it before.
Honestly?
Honestly.
Wow.
I don't
This
know
will be
how
really interesting.
I don't know how I've not seen it, but I have not seen it.
Ooh.
What year was it from?
Early 90s? I don't know exactly offhand.
Okay, we'll figure that
Mm.
out.
It was like Jake Gyllenhaal's first movie. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review, up through your part of the bargain, shall we say, from the Resident Evil movies.
Oh boy.
Star Trek the motion picture.
I did not want to do Star Trek the motion picture.
You said Star Trek movies, I figured we're starting with the first one.
I wanted two through whatever. I'll take anything after two and up.
Well, you didn't specify that, and also Roberto Suarez requested
I was
it
going to say, that was Roberto Suarez
quite a while
that wanted
ago,
that.
so double whammy there.
He's the one that wants to punish us with Star Trek the motion picture.
You'll also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. We'll get to it. And, of course, the recommendations list. I am so relieved this made it to the recommendations list, or at least didn't suck, because that would have been awkward as hell, given all the hype. You can also email us zombietakeout@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-CTL1, or for the alphanumerically challenged,
Definitely go fuck yourself.
414-368-9861. By the way, I'll always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee.
Of course.
I was listening to last week's show, and I realized I got sidetracked and never gave the alphanumerically challenged number.
Oh, wow.
You won one.
And I never told people to go fuck themselves.
I think you did say something, and I got totally sidetracked and forgot to give the number. You won one.
Ah, thank God. 1 week where the alphanumerically challenged are thwarted.
Of course, until next time, always remember, never forget. Wherever you go in life, there you
are.
Please, please. Please, please let me go.
What's up? Welcome to episode 300. What's up?
Whoa.
Yeah, you jumped a little bit there.